Everyone faces problems, whether that's a fight between you and your best friend, or deciding whether to give your student an A- or B+ on their most recent essay, or deciding not to use your notes for your TED Talk when every other time you practiced with your notes. Having problems is something that is super relatable. Today, I want to show you all how we can solve these problems, but I'm going to flip that on you a little bit. The problem I'm going to discuss today is not one that's relatable to any of us. In fact, it's not one that we'll ever experience and ever have to experience. I'd like you all to quickly imagine a parking space in your head, okay? Just your average parking spot. That's gonna measure to about 150 square feet. Now shrink that space by a little bit, and you now have a space about 120 square feet. Now finally, imagine shoving the contents of your life, your room, even your family members into that tiny space. These are the conditions that over 220,000 Hong Kong residents live in every single day. In more extreme cases, the houses can become even smaller. These are what are called coffin homes because they're literally the size of coffins. It gets worse from here. Most of these families, if not all, who live in these conditions share communal bathrooms and communal kitchens. This looks like 35 people sharing one toilet. Needless to say, the housing crisis in Hong Kong is one that needs an immediate and effective solution. The standard of living in these areas is so low that we, as Hong Kong citizens, as Hong Kong residents, and as people who have power to influence the government should not be sitting here, simply accepting that reality. Today, I'm going to explore the current initiatives and solutions that the Hong Kong government has proposed, but also will critique them and propose my own, therefore, hoping to address the underlying nature of how we can solve problems. There are two aspects to the government solution, the long-term one and the short-term one. All long-term solutions are kind of recently implemented, and there's really very little data that is out there on them, so I won't be focusing too much on them because there's little analysis that can be made. Instead, today I will be focusing on the short-term solution, more specifically, the Light Public Housing Project. In the media and in the press, this is a project better known as the Transitional Housing Project. And what this looks like is having small government subsidized flats being rented out for residents who are in need at very, very low rates, or at least lower than what the market currently offers. Now, what distinguishes these transitional housing flats from your typical cage homes is their emphasis on smart design. So instead of kind of randomly, haphazardly cutting up an apartment into 10 separate rooms like subdivided flats, the status quo, the government decides to build small, compact, and clean apartments for rent out to people. And it's also probably important to note two numbers. The government official goal that has been publicized is to have 30,000 of these flats running by the end of 2024. As of right now, at this moment, there are 9,400 flats currently operational. Keep those stats in mind. Now that's great and all, but there's an underlying problem that this solution does not solve. And it is that housing management and housing crises in Hong Kong often happen because there simply isn't enough land to build housing on. It's not just the supply and demand imbalance, it's also the fact that there literally isn't enough land to build houses on in Hong Kong because the government is, to be frank, extremely bad at managing its land. In fact, a 2018 statistic from Vox showed that over 75% of land in Hong Kong is either poorly managed, badly managed, or just not managed at all. I don't want to just stand here and criticize and critique the government, though. Let me now propose what I would do if I was them. Greenpeace, as you all probably know, is an internationally recognized global organization targeting climate change and other similar environmental issues. Greenpeace estimated that there are 1,950 hectares of what's called brownfield land in Hong Kong. Brownfield land is land that was allocated for agriculture but is now industrially used for various reasons, and it's often polluted because of that, therefore holding very little ecological value. While that maybe isn't great for the climate and biodiversity in Hong Kong, it is great to be a potential solution for the housing crisis. In fact, Greenpeace estimated that if just a small fraction of this 1,950 hectares of land was used to build housing in Hong Kong, we would have on our hands, as the government, over 108,000 flats out to rent. The government official goal is 30,000. When we can more than triple this, why shouldn't we? I therefore think This is a solution that the Hong Kong government should impose instead of the initiatives that it currently has in place. Now, this brings me back to my central theme for today. When we aim to address a problem, you shouldn't just look at the focusing on stemming the effects or the short-term aftermath of the problem. Obviously, that's important to address, and the Hong Kong government does do that, but it's even more important to address the underlying fundamental root causes of the problem through a proposed solution. In this example, for example, of using brownfield land. So what have I left you with today? Next time, when you're faced with a problem, I hope you can therefore keep this in mind and come up with an effective and ultimately better solution than what the Hong Kong government has done, and that you can maybe one day form a new government that will in place better policies with that in mind. Thank you very much.